Hey, hey, hey. It's chilly out. Got about a foot of snow out there. So it's too cold to ride. But what's better than riding? Talk about riding. So let's talk about riding. I wanted to give my thoughts on the Kawasaki Versys 300X. Because it's a weird bike. And if you're looking at this, you're probably thinking about buying it. And so I wanted to give you my impressions. I got about 6,000 miles on it. Owned it for about 10 months. I used it mainly as a commuter. I wanted to get it as like an off-road trail adventure bike and also as a commuter. I mainly used it as a commuter. It was about 90% used for just commuting. So I kind of wanted to go over the pros and cons, and if you should get it, if you're thinking about it, who you are, and maybe you should go with a bigger bike, smaller bike, a different bike, or just a different bike. So the pros, this bike is pretty light. It weighs in under 400 pounds, fully liquidated with liquid in it, the wet weight. So it's light. It's good for trails. That's why I got this bike over the KLR 650, which I was thinking about getting this, or even the Versys 650. I was thinking about getting a bigger bike, but I wanted to be able to take it on technical trails, like single track trails. And I've owned the KLR 650 before. And that's why I sold it, is because when I would go on single track trails with my buddy who owns a DRZ 400, it was night and day. That bike was way better than the KLR, and I wanted something lighter, but I still wanted something that I could commute on and go on trips on. There's not a lot of bikes there. I needed a Swiss Army knife of a bike, and I thought about getting the 650 Versys, but then it was going to be too heavy for off-road, but it would have been way better on commuting, way better in a number of reasons, and power. Just, this thing's a dog, but this bike is a good commuter bike. It gets excellent gas mileage. If you can go under 70 miles an hour, you'll get easily 65 miles a gallon. If you could keep it to like 55, if you have a country road and you could go 55, you could probably get 75, 80 miles a gallon out of this thing. I mean, it's really light on the gas, and if you're easy on the throttle and you're not wringing it out, you can get excellent. This is like a scooter, essentially. The only thing is, if you're going to be commuting long distances, if you're going to be going more than 40 miles, I would say 40 miles is the cutoff, is when your ass starts to go numb and starts to ring, and just that becomes a part where that's all you start thinking about, is just, I got to get off this bike, my ass is hurting me. I still have the stock seat on this. I don't know why. I'm telling you that, and I still have 6,000 miles I've rode on this thing. It's just because the replacement seat is expensive. But I'll probably get a replacement here this summer, and I'll post a review on that. But anyways, so the downside is just, for a commuter, the downside is the seat sucks. And it's lightweight, so if you do a lot of highway riding, if there's any wind, you're going to be blown around like a shopping bag in a grocery store parking lot. Just kind of, well, wherever the wind wants to go, that's where you're going. It's not so bad, but I've had some windy days here where, yeah, it's like, oh crap, I better take it easy. That's one of the cons of having such a light bike, but it's not bad. And then the commuter, I got all the Kawasaki luggage rack for it. The top bag was like $100. The rear racks were like $450. They were expensive, but I put them all in myself fairly easily. Anybody can do it. It's not hard at all. And I got the 12 volt accessory outlet. Like, you have to do those if you plan on being on this bike for a long time. And I got a taller windscreen because I did a 900 mile ride on it, and I wanted to be as comfortable as possible, and it was okay. The only thing is, when you start commuting and you go high speeds, this bike rings. I mean, the red line is 12,000 RPM, and if you want to be going 80, 85, you're going to be doing about 10,000 RPM. So this thing is just, I mean, it's loud and it's buzzy, and you've got to get excellent earplugs and just drown out as much of this noise as possible if you're going to be riding at highway speeds for a long time. It just gets super buzzy. And I did about 450 miles without earplugs that I made a mistake on, and probably went deaf from it. Probably have long-term hearing damage, but that's another story. So I got this bike also to do off-roading on. I haven't done a ton of it, but I have done some trails, and it's pretty good for it. And this bike actually, you take the luggage rack off it, you put some aggressive tires on it. You have to upgrade the fork, though. The front fork on this sucks. I've bottomed out on it a few times. So I've even bottomed out on it just going into a parking lot, like coming off of Main Street and going too fast and hitting that little dip, like bottomed it out. I don't know if this was a defect on mine, but they're not very, you can't adjust it, and they're not very, I don't know. I can't think of the word for it, but you know what I'm saying. But you're going to bottom out a lot if you plan on doing off-roading on this. So I would upgrade the forks and put some aggressive tires on it. And then you got a pretty decent off-road bike, I would say. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there would disagree. If you're riding like an actual dirt bike, you'd say this thing sucks. Yeah, but compared to like a KLR 650 or a Versys 650 or a V-Strom or something like that, I would take this over it. I put a bash guard over the headers. You got to do a couple things to get it there, but a couple other things that I was kind of bummed about. Speaking of underneath the bike, which you can't see, but there's no center stand on it, which kind of sucks. You have to add one to it, and I've seen you could get. I'm probably going to add one for about $100. I might go with the cheap Chinese-made one, like on eBay or Amazon. See how that goes. Because it'd just be nice if you got to do any maintenance, lubing up the chain. I don't know why they didn't put a center stand on it. I hate it when they don't put center stands on a bike. It just seems like a no-brainer. The other thing, like this bike, it's an excellent value. I think I got it brand new for like $4,500, brand new from a dealer. It was a year-old stock, so they were just trying to push it. And it comes with a 1-year warranty, and I bought the extended 4-year warranty from Kawasaki for another $500, which I know normally I never get a warranty, but for that one, unlimited mile warranty for $500 for it'll be 5 years. That just seemed like a no-brainer for me. And that warranty is way cheaper than Honda's. I haven't looked at Yamaha's or Suzuki's, but I'm sure it's cheaper because Kawasaki is more of the budget brand. So I would say if you do get it, get that warranty. I mean, it's, I don't know, peace of mind, and it's roadside assistance, towing. I mean, it's a pretty good. On paper, it's a good warranty. We'll have to see if they actually honor it when I need it, but we'll find out, I guess, and I'll post on that. I'm trying to think of anything else. So on paper, this bike was great. It says 39 horsepower this thing has, which is amazing for a 300cc bike. That's about what the 650 has, the KLR 650. The thing is, you have to rev the hell out of this thing to get to it. You got to be almost redlining it to get that kind of power. Low end, it doesn't have much. But it is good to know that it does have that power if you need it. I mean, if you're in third gear and you're going at 10,000 RPM, giving a little bit more from 10 to 12, like you feel it. I mean, it does want to go, and it does feel fast, which is nice. But it definitely doesn't have torque like my KLR 650 had. But it's got some power. It just doesn't have torque. But yeah, overall, I think this is a great bike. You're not going to be able to get a roadworthy bike for under $6,000. I think I was just looking at all the bikes. I'm looking to get one for my wife, and trying to find a bike for under $7,000 is pretty tough, brand new. There's like this, and I'm probably looking at like a Honda Rebel 500. But those are two totally different bikes. Like this bike, you could go anywhere. You could go adventuring. You could go cross country. I mean, I got to do some more mods for this to do heavy mileage on it, but I think I could do a 1,000-mile plus trip on this, and also take it off road, single track, and use it as a commuter. I mean, this is it's tries to do everything. Like a lot of bikes do. I think the KLR 650 tries to do that, and the Versys, and so does the V-Strom, and they're all kind of pick and choose. So I would say get the Versys 650 or the V-Strom 650 if you want power. Because there are a lot of times where I'm just like, man, I wish I had another 350cc worth of power on this thing. But I don't know. I think if you're a beginner, get this. Hopefully you won't grow out of it. But I knew going into this that, I was downgrading. The last bike I had was the KLR 650, and I knew this was going to be a downgrade, but the power seemed like it was there on paper, and it is. It's fine. Like, it does fine for me. There's only a few times when I'm like, I wish I had more. Giddy up. I was riding with my buddy. He's got a GS 650, the BMW, and it's not, his bike isn't like crazy faster, but it is faster. I always like to be faster. I always want to be. There's nothing like that feeling of having somebody just pull away from you and you can't do anything and you're just like, see you later. But small complaints, And, you know, my bike gets better gas mileage, and it's got a 4.5 gallon tank. And if you were just commuting and getting 70 miles a gallon, that's over 300 miles on range. If you were to, like, I'm sure if you wanted to hypermile this, which I'm going to do, I could probably get 400 miles out of a tank on this thing if I'm going like 50 to 60 miles an hour, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, hopefully that answers questions. If you're thinking about getting this bike, it's a difficult answer. It just depends on who you are and what you're trying to get out of this. For me, I wanted an adventure bike that I could pretty much go anywhere on. I wanted it to be economical. I didn't want to pay a fortune, but you know, I wanted to keep it under $7,000, and this was way under $7,000. So that hit the bucket for me. I'd say this is for a practical adventurer, a frugal, practical adventurer. If that's what you classify yourself as, I'd say get this bike. And I've done 2-up riding on this. My girlfriend rode in the back. This isn't the best bike for it, but it can definitely do it. You definitely feel the lack in performance when you put another person on there. And we've loaded it down with stuff too, and it'll do it. It'll easily go on the highway with 2 of us on there and handle low speeds, but it's more of like in a pinch. If you're planning on doing cross country with 2 people, I wouldn't do it on this bike. Unless you're both little tiny people. Then maybe it's okay. But hopefully that helped.